Hey guys, what's going on? My name's XCaliber, and we are here for yet another designer spotlight. And today we are going to be featuring Tim88. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. So, yeah, I guess first question would be about how long have you been building in Empyrion?
Um, actually, I hate to say it's kind of a hard question, but the first builds I did were just either PvP or built strictly for myself for in-game use. But I mean, that was as far back as we'll say somewhere around 5.0. I think I started playing and building a little bit, and builds back then were awful for me, and slowly started getting into more RP builds and a little bit more decorative and fun to look at.
Ah, awful, you say. All right, are we gonna get some bad builds? I'm looking forward to that. What do we?
Oh, it's gonna be great.
Nice. What do we got going first here? Let us know the next one or the first one.
So the first one, kind of a funny story. It's actually called Titty's Revenge, and it's an SV. And this came up. I was playing with a bunch of guys from an old server, and one of the guys' his name was Big Titty, and he would go up against POIs and just die constantly. And I'm like, he goes, man, I need something really, a little bit bigger, a little bit more fun to play in, agile, and all more protected than what he was using. He was using prefab, so I built him this god awful looking thing.
Nice. I love it.
And yeah, so you can look in. There's a few few seats for some friends. Everything's kind of exposed on the inside, but you got to remember it was like version 5 point something.
Built-in
So
microwave,
yeah,
man. I love it. This is awesome.
oh yeah,
Dude, like you could literally like go out and kill like something and all you got to do is walk into your ship and it's cooked by the time you get to your seat, dude. That's freaking awesome. It's functioned for days, man.
yeah. It was that was solely it. The old stuff was pure function, and if you god mode into it, you'll see there's a little lag armor. This one may not have lag armor, but you'll see maybe the next one's got some, but the cockpit was super tiny. That cockpit style wouldn't work these days.
Yeah, I mean, jokes aside, this is a fully functioning SV. I mean, it's got everything. It's you paid attention to where the core would go in relation to other things. I mean, I don't see too many issues here, other than a little bit of chain reaction stuff. I mean, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, back then, there was some chain reaction stuff, but at the same time, it was fairly cheap to make this thing, especially with what point we were at in the game, and it was get in, destroy the guns of a POI, loot it, and of course, no weights and volumes back then, so this held everything you could loot.
Yeah, I mean,
So
pretty fairly cheap. I mean, it does have a restroom and symposium. I'm assuming that's like weapons or something you got going on there.
yeah, she was pretty heavily. I think it's all rail guns and the non-homing missiles, because back then the homing missiles were just terrible in the SVs. So you went with the non-homing, so you could direct them where to go a little bit better than what your options.
All right. How's it going, chat? There. Hope everybody's doing good today. Yeah, so it moves pretty good in Alpha 11.
Yeah, I'm kind of I didn't even look at the CPU statistics on this, but it's so it looks like it had to be probably somewhere around tier 3 to fully maneuver. But it was one of those fighter jet styles, you can definitely get around pretty quick.
Actually, I think I am in creative mode, so I don't think that would be affected. But yeah, that's not what we're here
Oh,
for.
gotcha.
We're not here to see CPU compliance, so
Right.
we're not too worried about it. So Titty's Revenge.
Yeah.
This was kind of your first serious build, I guess.
Yeah, the first serious one, and it was solely functional and had a purpose behind it, and it actually served well for a little while until the next one I made was called the Stingray, and it was also an SV, and that one was kind of the upgraded version, a little bit thicker, a little bit bigger, and was meant to be just yourself in there. There was no room for friends.
Ah. Wow, that's a
Yeah.
powerhouse of a weapons complement there.
A little bit more guns to this one, a little bit more thrust and maneuverability, but it was it did the same thing. Went in, took out POIs, and it would its only other purpose was to annoy the living hell out of the PvP CVs at the time. So you can
Hmm.
tell this one was it was 6.0 that I actually built this one. Or at least I redid it in 6.0.
Nice. Yeah, so just down and dirty, like get in the cockpit and.
Yeah, that was it. There was no, you weren't cooking your steak in this one. You brought it home.
And maneuvers.
Yeah, these early builds were just quick and easy. You know what I mean? It's at all function.
Uh-oh. How'd it feel? How'd it feel?
Yeah, yeah. They suck fuel pretty quick. They were not fuel efficient. But back then, fuel was easy to come by.
So, beginning of the game, like, you're just starting to play Empyrion and everything. What actually drove you to start building? I mean, I guess you're saying, is this what truly started you building, or was there other builds kind of before that maybe we don't have today, but kind of went like, oh, let me figure this out kind of situation?
So literally before TD's Revenge, the only thing I built was a starter SV, and it was a brick. It was just a literal brick rectangle, had some thrusters, and it would just get me from A to B. It was the gap between Titty's Revenge and the motorcycle. So, once I started these two builds, I went on to do some more functional, and then actually stopped playing the game for a while. The only other two builds that I did before I stopped playing, I think I sent them to you, were the Heavy Driller PvP. And it's a CV. And the other CV is called Bologna, which is spelled Bellona. And they were all functional too. And I didn't really have a whole lot of like inspiration from the workshop or anything. They were just, like I said, function, and that was it. So I
Right,
was I was one of those kind of brick builders, but I didn't like the bricks so much, so I tried to add a few shapes here and there.
right, right.
So yeah, that CV, I mean, you can tell the whole face of it was kind of a shield, um, a big ring on the back for the guns. You could take a few hits with this thing and dish it out a little bit, just enough for you to warp out and get back home safely.
Got a little bit of a maze going on here. That's
Yeah,
cool.
so back then you wanted a few doors and everything like that, and yeah, you would go in and so no one could get inside of it, basically.
Right, right. Okay, so you kind of started playing in multiplayer and PvP when you started.
Yeah, I did very little single player. In fact, I still have done very little single player play on this. It's all primarily just been multiplayer PvP style.
Very cool.
And that was a time too where I mean I guess it still stands true to this day that your PvP builds are kind of secretive. You don't want to you don't want anyone to know the little tips and tricks you had. And back then, lag shot was kind of, people were just discovering how to stop lag shot. Um, People were also adding a million different lights, because back then, you didn't the lights didn't add to your size class so much.
Right.
So you would add about a million of them to try to lag the other people out of the game, and then you could just destroy them. In fact, one ship that I had, the next one, like I said, it's called Bologna, Bellona, is that
This
was
is
the PvP ship I primarily used.
ah.
Yeah, so obviously that one, it's all combat steel. Would take you about 6 years to gather all the materials for. Um,
A lot of
but
frontal armor. Look at
it
that.
was Oh yeah, and I think this one too. When I built, people were starting to target turrets alone. So somewhere in the front, pretty decently guarded, there's like a little, just a little single man turret. Might be damn near impossible to find with all 20 million bricks in there. But that was the point, right? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and
yeah. No, I gotta say,
of
this is the.
course,
I think this is the first designers challenge where we've actually had some PvP builds, so it's pretty cool. You guys are getting to see a
the
different
core sat towards the
concept there.
back. You didn't want to have your asset towards anyone. And this is, I know it says 9.5. I refitted it for 9.5, but it was probably I stopped playing in the this right before 7 point something 7.0 came out maybe.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, it was now of course obviously these things would not last today. You couldn't make them CPU compliant, and size class is just off.
Check that out. It's the size class in this thing.
Actually, this
Oh,
one might be a little bit smaller. I know at one point when
that's a
they were
6.
changing the size class numbers, what is it? Yeah. It had shot up to like 17 or 20 at one point when they were changing the numbers around.
Yeah. It's a pretty good CPU too. It's only 121 million. So.
Yeah, so I only need to take half of it away,
uh,
right?
uh, or like
As far as
90% of
the
it.
thrusters go.
Yeah,
Yeah, right?
just 90% of the CPU. You just gotta get rid of it. But you got 88 tier
Yeah.
2 RCSs on it, so that's a good start. That's literally so
That's
check
like
us out.
all of it.
So yeah, no, it literally is. So there's 88 tier 2 RCSs, and that is literally 110 million of the 120 million. So once you get rid of those RCSs, you literally just have to take like another 10 million off, which I don't know.
Right?
Nice. Yeah, that's kind of nuts because you look at the blocks. You've got roughly 13,500 blocks, right? And that's only 500K of the 10 million CPU. That yeah, wow, it's just straight up RCS, and I guess the XL thrusters, right? So
Yeah, there's I mean, you look at that, what, 19 extra large thrusters in that thing?
yeah.
She would get up and move, that's for sure.
Oh, I bet this thing like does freaking windmills now. Hold on, where's the cockpit? That's what I was trying to find
It's
before.
it's another maze. It's another maze cockpit. And the yeah, so the entrance is in the bottom back end. It's gonna say if you try to look forward that fashion, you
Yeah,
might be looking forever.
yeah, we'll
Yeah,
go
if
up
you
the
go
elevator
if you
here.
go to the back.
There it is. Yeah, so I mean, with PvP builds, you obviously want to be able to follow with whatever's attacking you, staying frontal and stuff. So you really do need the turning capability, and you need the thrust capability. So that's kind of where PvP and CPU clash, right? That's gonna. I don't know how that's gonna be solved. I guess it's just all gonna be really to a lesser grade, right? But it's all
Yeah.
variable, right? Like it's like, if all you can bring is a pillow to the fight and all I could bring is a pillow to the fight, we're gonna have a pretty badass pillow fight, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, it's all really relative. It's like, it sucks. It's like, oh, I can't have 20 layers of this and that, but either can the other guy. So, it's just different.
Yeah, and that's always a good thing too. So I would say after this one though, I really wanted to build a base, and about
Mm.
this time too, I was playing Space Engineers at the same time. So the base I had, it's called Elysian, um, and it was kind of something I was building in Space Engineers at the same time, and you'll see that it's quite empty. And the reason it's quite empty is, as you know, Space Engineers, you have to have all the functional stuff kind of running throughout the whole place, right?
Hmm.
So it'll look kind of bare on the inside. So
So talk about that for a second. You're playing Space Engineers at the same time as Empyrion. Like, what were your I guess kind of what did you get in comparison and contrast between the two games?
Yeah, so I found as far as building went, creative style building, things I like to actually look at, you know, this game was far superior. But as far as making one thing I really liked about Space Engineers was you could make your own weapons in
Mm.
some ways. You could the bombs that had different supplies on the inside and rocks would expand and just destroy different stuff. It was kind of glitchy and everything, but you took advantage of that and made your own weapon system. So the engineering aspect of Space Engineers was really fun for me, but the building aspect I found a lot better in this game.
Right. So I mean, kind of like me. Like you like the moving parts, you like the conveyor systems and stuff, but at the end of the day, like this just is a lot more satisfying to build in, and you really wish you had both.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say this ship, or sorry, not ship. This base here was kind of my intro to a little bit of RP stuff. You can see there's some mass decks, there's a reactor room, ready rooms, and things like that. And that's because I built a big base and needed to put stuff in different places. You know what I mean? Fill the rooms. They couldn't all just be bare.
Right. Right. So former military or
Yeah, so I was in the Navy about a total of 8 years there. And I was on an aircraft carrier for about 6 or more years. So it was, you'll see that's where some of this stuff comes from. Yeah, not the prettiest design in there too. When I built this, the constructors and everything had that more blocky look to them.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, I mean if this is back then, I mean things have considerably changed, right? And it's actually interesting to probably look back at these and see them modernized with the new doors and some of these new things, you know?
Yeah, some of these, like I like the outside design of this. I'd like to retweak it a little bit and then actually probably resubmit it. Obviously with a lot more decoration and make it look a lot better.
So what's the mezzanine for?
It was literally just there, I kind of pretend that it was almost like a shipyard dry dock thing. If you had a taller ship, you could work on it up there.
Yeah, no, that's cool. No, I just asked that because yeah, I mean obviously it's an RP thing. It doesn't serve a function, but it's pretty cool. Like otherwise you just have
Yeah,
this blank area here, right? So that's cool.
yeah, and that's kind of what it is right now. But and there's a whole upstairs to that. There's a control tower and a whole medical area and everything like that.
I love this radio tower, dude. That is something else.
The downside is nowadays it adds so much to your triangle count because of the truss blocks. But yeah, I really liked it. That was kind of like the little crown jewel in it when I was down.
Yeah. I mean, that's my real profession. That's actually what I did in the Navy too as a radioman, so that's my wheelhouse right there. That's cool, man.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Yeah. Like the
Yeah, I
OE-82
was.
trash can antennas you see on the supply ships and stuff. The line of sight stuff. That's cool, man. Control tower here.
So yeah, that build, I actually used that base quite a
Oh,
bit
right on, Wolfer.
in the game. And that was obviously before POI attacks and everything. So I didn't actually need the turrets on there or anything at that time. And I think later I fitted it with some turrets, so I could survive some of the different stuff.
Yeah, this is cool, man. I mean, this is a pretty big undertaking too for an early base build. This is cool though. I mean, like you definitely none of it looks excessive. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
your decorations would be a lot better now. Your kind of stuff like that. You'd probably have more complex shaping. But what I'm looking at is kind of you were able to fill the room in a way that it feels like there's some substance to it. You know what I mean? And that's cool, especially in early times. Because usually, your first bases they're either way too big or they're way too small. They don't make sense. But this actually feels, yeah, it feels like it's got some cool RP to it.
Yeah, and that was actually quite a challenge because, well, some of these spaces would be really easy to do, alpha 10.6, 11, things like that nowadays. And that's just because you have a million other different blocks that you can use these days, right?
Right.
Yeah, a little. Now, this is the funny part, the grow plots here. I didn't know. Oh, no, those ones are right. So the earlier version of this had extra grow plots, but not extra lights in there. So I did not know how the grow plot situation worked.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 5 by 3. I was hoping it would cover or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this was actually the last build that I had done um until probably Alpha 8 point something came around.
Oh wow, so
Uh,
a big break.
yeah, during that big break, I was playing some other games, and this game, just didn't have the content that I wanted at the time. I was kind of bored of it. Um, so at that point, I switched over to some other games, and then I came back and actually built one of the first big builds that I did was actually one of the submissions for one of your monthly ordeals, and that was the Eagle Claw Outpost. And then from here on out, actually, if you want to jump into space and spawn everything in space, it actually because I do all my builds in space, so that's where all the lighting is usually best for them. And
Mhm.
let's be honest, they are spaceships, right?
Ah. Yeah, the transition's different now coming in and out of the planet. You can't just go up. You gotta like stop and then move. It's funny too. It's like you look at designers and you look at I'm starting to look at designers now and look at how they build bases cuz for me and I think for a lot of people like we'll build ships to look a certain way, be real creative with the shaping, but then bases are always kind of that weird thing because there's people that build with the concept of making a cool looking ship, but they aren't necessarily like an architect minded person. And then you look at people that build bases and they do crazy stuff with bases. Like I would probably say Jay Randall would be a good or Salustacor or some of these guys that build bases like way out of the box shit that doesn't even it looks like a base at the end of it, but you're like, how did you get there? Like what made you do these crazy swoopy things on a building? You know what I mean? And I'm starting to try
Oh
to
yeah.
do that. Like I did my stream yesterday where I was building a base and like I'm trying to like, put my head there, but I'm still not quite. I still just want to build bricks, right? really, really efficient brick bases. So no, it's interesting. Like it's totally possible, but I always feel like I'm wasting blocks, especially on bases. I feel like damn, I'm wasting all these blocks just to make this thing look pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you almost have to, right? One of the things I like to do on the bases is make them look like, they are architecturally sound and things like that. So you'll see like a random support here and there. Um, now this one, I actually ended up using this one in the game too. In fact, I think I put it on your server at one point
Yeah, yeah.
when that was up, and this was when I came back to playing. So obviously a huge change. Um, and
So
this was
what?
I
Sorry. So
Oh no, I was saying I had looked at a bunch of different people online on what they were building. I was getting ideas. So this base is kind of a mix of some different people I had seen do some stuff, and I tried making it my own.
yeah, I mean, just a huge contrast. I mean, what other games did you play? Were there any games that you were kind of developing your skill in as far as just the concept of
Believe it or
building?
not, so one of them I really did was 7 Days to Die. Believe it or not,
Ah, yeah, yeah.
not a lot of block shapes, but there's enough of an option where I could have some fun in there and still do a lot of building. So that was all base building, obviously. But when I came back here, I had, played a little bit of the 7 Days to Die and definitely a little bit more Space Engineers. And probably did more research on other people's builds before I started going in, actually making my own stuff.
Yeah, because I will say, 7 Days to Die. I mean, the base building's great, but what's so great about it is it really develops your not only your structural integrity but also your efficiency uh, minded kind of builds. Because with 7 Days to Die, you can't have any weak spots in your base, right? Otherwise, you're going to get infiltrated. So you're really forced to adapt to minimalism and efficiency in a way, and it's pretty
Oh,
cool.
definitely.
Pretty cool. I mean, I bet it really does help your building skills in Empyrion.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell this one's probably not efficient, especially since I tried to stick along with the role play aspect, and I would run around this base, manually moving stuff from place to place at times.
But it's
Um,
beautiful, man. I love the
yeah, it
color.
was.
I love the lighting. The red's really cool. Like the whole thing's just cool, man. It looks like yeah, it's cool, man. The lighting, you got a lot of constructors here, obviously, right? But yeah, I mean, it
Yeah,
doesn't
so I
feel
was.
overly big. It still feels really good.
Yeah, and the funny thing was this. So this was on the HWS server when I first built it. I played on there for a while, and it was at the point where I could get so many, materials that I actually there's 4 furnaces in there. And
Yeah.
people thought I was crazy, but I used all 4 furnaces.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
this
yeah. Especially in a
this
multiplayer
this was.
scenario.
Oh yeah, yeah. And this base was the start of my I started using the logic in there. I started the role play stuff. So there's a whole the mess deck in here is a little bit nicer. Then there's some actual bedroom in there and a medical area.
Dude, so how long did this take to build?
Ooh, this one, oh, because this was a huge undertaking for me at first. I would probably say this was somewhere between 80 to 100 hours.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, I mean, this probably felt like your coup de grace and you were done, man. This is probably like, you know what, fucking, I'm a legend, man. Like coming from what you were building before and then coming back to this, and like, I mean, it looks like you just went nuts. Like you saw a bunch of stuff, got really inspired, um, definitely developed your shaping arsenal. Your texture gun like went nuts in comparison to your older stuff. I mean, you
Oh
really
yeah.
like it, that must have just opened your eyes, like, and it probably inspired you to build a lot more stuff, which obviously you're still building, right? I mean, it's this is probably what kind of sparked a new life into in this game for you.
Yeah, so after building this, like I said, it did spark a whole new, I guess, era. You know what I mean? I was like,
Mm.
oh man, I can do this. I was like, oh hell yeah. I go, I'm just gonna take it further and further. Um, and it was after that, I mean, it was literally just tons and tons of building. I think I spent more time building than I did playing the actual game.
Yeah, I think that's a normal transition for anybody that feels success in building. And when I say success, I don't mean the workshop. I just mean, like I just said, like it sparks and you go, oh wow, now I can actually paint with these blocks. I can actually translate what I'm thinking in my head into blocks. And once you do that, it's like, oh man, like this is really cool. And it just, yeah, I know that feeling, man. It's a really cool feeling. So
Oh
what
yeah.
happened? What happened after this?
After this, I started really getting into CVs. So we have a CV called the Hecate, which, believe it or not, apparently Jay Randall has the same name for one of his. And I was looking at some Jay Randall stuff, but I didn't even know he had a ship named that at the time. So
Yeah, I think that it was his smaller CV, his smaller
yeah, so
Persis.
this
Okay.
one, yeah, so this one, I started doing some asymmetrical stuff because I didn't see a whole lot of asymmetrical on the workshop.
Yeah.
And I really kind of enjoyed doing the asymmetrical builds. They look different and things like that. I had a real good time with it.
Wow. Yeah, this is something else, dude.
And at this point too, I'd watched some videos, some of the other builders had made. Jay Randall talks a lot about three-dimensional texturing, texture with blocks instead of just your texture gun. So you see there's what PvP players would call a waste of blocks up there.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a whole lot of them, but it adds a whole new dimension, a lot of character to the actual build.
So yeah, so I mean that must have been something to wrestle with, right? Is I really enjoy building. I'm making really cool looking shit, but I also play a lot of PvP, and I'm trying to justify both of them. Like how does that, like, what kind of conflict do you have? I mean, maybe with other people, with people you game with. I'm sure other people have to gather the resources to bring this thing into a multiplayer scenario, right?
Yeah, so that's kind of what it was. It was for me, it was, well, if I really want this ship, it can't go into PvP. It might have a shield so I could take a hit or two, but then I'm just warping out. So I would always have to be careful of where I took ships like this. And if I knew I was going into PvP space, I would, jump into one of those PvP ships I built, and I'd have to go around in the big ugly brick, basically.
And how frustrating is that? Because I always felt very frustrated by that, and I always wanted to kind of marry the two. And I don't think I was
It
ever
it
successful. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, it's very hard to marry the two because obviously, when you're building a PvP build, you're doing that whole min-max thing, right? You're trying to minimize the decoration to maximize, the block usage for size class. And I'd never found a happy medium. So it was frustrating that, and that's one reason actually I quit the HWS server was because they would limit you to like a couple of ships. That was all you could have nowadays. And I was like, well, I can either do PvP or PvE, one or the other. I can't do both. So I left HWS and found your server, and at that point I could do unlimited builds. So it was a pretty good time.
Dude, I love this little area here. This is so cool.
Yeah, it's like I said, I took a lot of inspiration from other ships and things like that, with more from a little bit here and there.
Yeah, yeah,
You'll
yeah.
see I stick with something similar to this cargo throughout the whole thing. And in fact, one of my cargoes is pretty damn close to a J. Randall cargo that I just enjoyed the look of it so much. I was like, I got to throw this into mine and see what it looks like. And
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it was I think at this point too on this ship, I started doing a little bit more with the cockpits. I would do like an elevated cockpit. In this one, it's upstairs in that elevator, and oh, it was definitely a lot nicer than the older style I was doing.
yeah. I mean, I want to say something about this room, though. I mean, this room, like, I don't know. I really enjoy asymmetrical rooms, like even more than the build outside. But it's something that just it feels really good when you walk into somewhere, and it's immersive. Like, and you feel it doesn't feel so clean's not the right word, but you know what I mean. It doesn't feel so over sanitized. Like it feels lived in. It has character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm glad someone likes it because when I got done with it, I was like, oh, it looks like my block tool and my texture tool all just threw up on this room.
No, it's I'm telling you, it's the same way I feel about bullet magnets builds. Like they just feel like real ships. Um they feel like there's things behind the walls, They feel like there's probably piping, and there's probably like JP5 going through the whole thing, and there's all this shit going on. It feels good, man. It really, yeah, I love it, man. It just immerses you into the game a bit more.
Yeah, so this is the one. This is the ship too that you saw it up there that kind of looked like a planet. I started doing they're not holograms obviously, but it was meant to look like a hologram that you're studying. Like, oh, I'm gonna go to this area, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Um, so yeah, after I built this ship, I was pretty happy with it. Once again, and I was like, man, I gotta keep doing more. But I need some like SVs to go with it. Um, so I branched out and actually did an SV called the Interceptor, and it was another asymmetrical build, and it was it couldn't do much, but it kind of fit, right along with this one.
Yo, what the hell is this? Oh, this is cool, man.
Yeah,
What?
it was a fun little build.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, just yeah, different, man. Way different.
Yeah, and something I wanted to do, and it was, it does have an interior that you can walk in, and it's got a cockpit on the outside. You no living quarters in it, but it just felt like you could, a little cozy space in there that you could hang out in.
Mm. Yeah, this is something else I haven't grasped yet. Is to make a just to make a big SV. I guess I haven't. I just can't do it. I don't know why. This is so cool.
Yeah,
Eh,
it's definitely not so easy anymore, right? 'Cause with all the different changes they've made, it was a fun little ship to make. It's got a couple of guns on it, but you'll see some of the builds I do are just to kind of cruise around in.
Well, just the character this has, I mean, alone is just, because that's the thing. I mean, with an SV, you're probably spending the most time in an SV when you're playing the game because you're probably scouting, you're probably getting rid of the fog of war on the planet. So you have to spend a lot of time in an SV, and if you got to look at the ass of an SV for at least an hour, it should look really cool. It should immerse you in it. It should, it's just, it's the same reason people use female characters when they're playing RPGs. Like you got to look at it the whole freaking time,
That's
right?
true.
You know what I mean? So like it should look cool, it should be interesting, and it should spark some imagination. And like, at the end of the day, an SV can move. You put some thrusters on it, you'll make the thing move, but you really have some good freedom to make some interesting shapes and dynamic. Yeah, just yeah. I don't know. It's cool, man.
Yeah.
It's just really cool.
Yeah, it was a fun ship. So then obviously after this, I was like, well, shoot, now I need an HV, and believe it or not,
Oh,
I
here
was
we go.
building this HV, and then your HV challenge came along. So this one, I think you could spawn HVs in space now, but
You can. There we go.
yeah. So this one's the Bangle, and the Bangle, you'll see the front end took a note out of Napalm's book. I don't know if he's on right now, but I know he submitted a few things recently.
Wow, look at this thing.
Yeah, so this was big, and it was not a joke.
Yeah, I wouldn't venture to call this a joke. This is yeah. Wow. So main function of this fighter?
Yeah, yeah. So it was definitely a fighter. Not a whole. This was the POI buster, right?
Okay, yeah,
That
yeah,
you
yeah.
had done. Yeah. So there's a couple. There's like two tiny turrets. Minigun turrets on the back end, and that those were meant to anyone trying to come around the back end of you. But everything was just focus fired in the front. Um, and there was room to eventually put on some larger turrets, but it was an unlock level 15. You didn't need to be 25 to drive this bad boy around.
Wow. And not too hard on the pocketbook either. I mean, no HVs really are, right? So I mean, you kind of have some freedom as far as size and stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely a larger HV than some of the other ones I had ever built. That were strictly function. But I definitely probably had the most fun out of all the HVs. This was the most fun to.
Oh yeah, I mean, just the amount of detail and the lighting and texturing and colors. I mean, just yeah, wow.
Yeah, and it was that was probably one of my bigger transitions into doing a lot more detail on the exterior and interior was this build. Because a lot of the other stuff had some just very clean, straight, easy lines. And I still do that a little bit, but like I said, I went pretty crazy on the detail for this one.
Just rich in detail, man. Yeah, for sure. And that's it, like and this is time. I mean, you really gotta you don't say enough, but like the amount of time you got to put into something to turn out like this versus like even like this for instance, right, is you got to really be in love with the shape of it. Like you had to have done a phenomenal job in shaping for yourself to go, yeah, I really like the way it's going, like I'm really gonna dedicate time to like finish it with the texturing and the coloring and stuff. And That's when you can tell that the
Yeah,
designer really likes what they did, you know?
I can't tell you. I've given up on quite a few
Oh, for sure.
builds. You know,
Yeah,
in my box, I have quite a few just shells, and I'm like, nope, didn't like it. Next,
right.
and it hurts too because you're like, shit, I spent like 10 hours building that, and you're just like, "Ah, I'll just throw it away before I invest more time and end up throwing it away later."
Well, that's it though, because that 10 hours translates into the next build. It really does, you know, because you figure things out and you don't make the same mistake twice. You adjust the proportions early on. These are all skills that you develop. So none of that time was wasted, right? I mean, it's like probably like in the beginning of my building, I didn't get the proportion thing until late in the game, and I'd have to go back and try to readjust stuff. And that's when I was like, okay, no, put everything in it first and then build around it. And then you don't have that problem. Probably hurts me in ways because I can't end up building stuff like this. Because I always end up building the brick because it's like, all right, I've built a brick of equipment. Let's surround it with stuff. I went a little extreme, but you know what I mean? Like you teach yourself things when it comes to getting things wrong, definitely. Especially in this game.
Yes, as far as doing stuff like that, I've figured building the shell first and then adding everything internally ends up being better as far as an RP aspect, right?
Hmm.
Because I just add the stuff later, and I'm like, well, if I don't have enough room for that, I'll blow out this wall a little bit or something,
Yeah.
and it ends up working out in the long run. Like you can tell those side thruster portions on that thing were not that big to begin with, but I wanted to fit all the extra firepower up there, so they ended up getting expanded, a couple blocks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I think we're all gonna have to redevelop the way we build now for CPU because now you're on a time clock. You're on a not a time clock, but you're on a resource clock. You're on a CPU clock.
Yeah,
Like you gotta okay, I also gotta keep it within this, and you're constantly looking at that timer and going, do I still have CPU? Do I still have CPU? What am I doing? So, it's gonna be interesting. I'm looking forward to the next couple challenges to see what we come up with. This challenge is gonna be cool. It's gonna be frustrating, but it's gonna be cool.
yeah, I do actually like the new CPU limitations. I think it's gonna bring out some more creativity in people. So,
Nice. Yeah, what's up,
what's
Tax,
the
Seraph, Sig, Dumpster? How you guys doing? Welcome, welcome. Yeah, sorry. So
then
go.
the no, you're good. The next build
Valeria.
was definitely a giant undertaking, and that's the E075 Horizon. And at this point too, when I built a Horizon, I was starting to make commercials for some of my ships. So
Right.
this one had a little commercial that went along with it. It's on YouTube. But this thing was kind of my bread and butter at the time. I loved it.
Yeah, share that link in the chat, YouTube.
Yeah, let me go jump in and find it real quick. Yeah, this was another one of those, 80 to 100 hour thing. And I don't think it's compliant with nowadays stuff. Um, but man, I'll tell you what, it was a whole hell of a lot of fun.
I love the back of this. I love those thrusters in the back.
Yeah, with that many thrusters, you
Oh
can't
my
use it
god,
these days. But
that looks so freaking cool, man. Yeah.
yeah, it was meant to be an exploration ship.
Yeah, cool company. Designers challenge this month is CPU compliance. I think tier 2, right? Unlock level 10. SVHV. Actually, anything. SVHV, CV, base. All the information's in the Discord.
Yeah, so I just shared the link there in the Twitch. But yeah, so this obviously an um, open hangar design. A little bit some cleaner lines on this one, than say the Bangle. But this was also when I found out that you could pop your messages outside of the LCDs.
Ah, right. So before they gave us the actual legit one.
Yeah, I'd seen a few people do it, and I was like, I got to figure out how they do that. So I started, doing these kinds of things. So the LCDs are, hidden on the wall or in different places and just perfectly match the wall in one way, shape, or form. And I think this build was probably one of my more popular ones at the time. So I was pretty happy with it.
Thought it said Hungry Bay.
Yeah, there you go. Now, the Hungry Bay is downstairs. That's the Mets
Yeah,
deck, right?
yeah,
So yeah, this was it was 3 levels, four if you're counting just the solo little cockpit area, and once again had fun with that cargo.
yeah. Yeah, very cool. A lot of production.
Yeah, I wanted something like I said. It was meant to be exploration, so I was like, oh, I really want this thing to feel like you're going out and exploring the universe. So there's enough stuff in there to last you a lifetime, supposedly, right?
Right.
It this like I said, this one too is on. I think I built it in your server. But I always like building things that you can actually put into a server and play. Not just sit in single player or God mode and just stare at it. I want to be able to use.
Right. So wait, you built this in survival?
Yeah, on your server actually.
Oh wow. So the Anvil community server in
Yep.
survival. That's badass, man.
And this one I got a little bit more into the logic too. So there's a bunch of buttons or switches over there on the side, and there's a couple little fun ones on there. There's a general quarters one that when you flip it, a bunch of red lights flash throughout the ship, and you can
Where?
turn signal lights on and off.
Where's that?
Um, on the port side there on the wall with all the right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's kind of on the yeah. There you go.
General quarters, man your battle stations. Da, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, some RP value to it. It is pretty fun.
That's cool, man. Do not
Yeah, it
rotate or
was.
radiate any electrical or electronic equipment while personnel are working aloft.
God, I gotta say, I almost don't miss hearing those messages every day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I didn't miss that watch. I'll tell you that. That watch sucked. It's the only watch where you
Oh yeah, for
absolutely
sure.
had to be engaged the entire watch. Like, it's like any other watch, like Mind Watch, Folks will watch any of those. Like you're there, but you can kind of think away, right? But Petty Ops of the Watch, nah, you actually gotta like do stuff all
Oh
the time.
yeah. Well, I did the cryogenics on board the carrier, so I made the liquid oxygen, liquid nitrogen on board.
Ah,
My 12 hour, I had a 12-hour watch every day, and I would just sit there staring at gauges and valves for the whole 12 hours. So
and make syrup coffee
yeah, right. Call it turpentine at
and
that point.
engineering coffee. Oh my god. I think that's why I drink so much coffee now, because I'm just never achieving engineering grade coffee.
Yeah, there's more coffee grounds than water.
Uh, Good stuff,
So
man.
yeah, that
That's
was
cool.
this was kind of my big pride and joy at the time. It does actually have guns on it, that come out, but it's not a heavy array of them. Um, it actually did really well on the workshop. I was actually quite surprised. I thought it was gonna flop just because it was such a strange asymmetrical size or shape and size. But
So yeah, take me through that. What was the level of importance with the workshop as far as the success of a build from maybe the beginning to now? Like, has that deviated? Is that still a very important thing, or?
it's been changing a bit, right? Like obviously with the first builds I ever did, just most of those are only friends only, so obviously I didn't care.
Hmm.
Um, And then when I started playing again, and I was like, oh, I can get on the workshop. People are actually looking at this. Then it became quite important, probably almost too important. I got the Steam app on my phone. I was checking it every now and then.
Hmm.
Go to the bathroom real quick, and as you're sitting down, you're checking it, right?
Oh my god, yeah, yeah. No, I
Yeah, oh god,
yeah,
it was bad. And
yeah,
then and then it's nowadays I'm like, since I feel like the whole community's gotten a little bit smaller for the game.
yeah.
And I'm just like, you know what? I go, I'm gonna still build some cool ships and release them on the workshop, but they're gonna be for me. I'm gonna like the way they look, and I
Hmm.
do some stuff. I take friends' inputs and things like that from time to time.
Well, I think a lot of us know each other now too. I think like it's really like you said. I mean, it's not that the amount of people is different. It's just that we kind of
Yeah,
congregate a
that's
bit
definitely
more
true.
now, right? So it's like, yeah, I'm right there with you though, man. Like I would be like
So
a
yeah, so
hawk
after
looking at.
after the Horizon here, I came out with the Endeavor, and the Endeavor, I took a page out of Star Citizen's book and made a kind of a luxury cruise liner.
Oh, flat lines. Oh, jeez, yeah, dude.
So this one, no constructor, nothing special. It's got a shield, a gravity generator, enough thrust, and RCS. You can fit a very tiny ship in it, and that's about it. But it was meant to go from A to B in style.
Pretty decent
Um,
sized ship. I think you can get away with a decent sized ship.
so this one I also made a commercial for too. I just threw the link in Twitch, and I have a good time making those.
Yeah, you do take a lot of time to do that, definitely.
Yeah, I remember you were talking one time. These builds, you get finished with the build. It's finished, right? Things fully created, decorated, and all that. But you're not done. You got to do the photo shoot. You got to take the photos into Photoshop.
Yeah,
You got to write up the whole thing on it.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, this thing, it was meant to just spew luxury throughout the whole ship. That there might be some kind of blank walls, but I broke it up with that blue and kind of yellow goldish decoration.
It's got a pool,
There's a
man.
whole swimming
Skylights.
pool in the back. Yep.
So, like, do you enjoy the post production of putting the builds, or? I mean, obviously, because you make videos, right? You don't have to make videos. You know that, right? You don't have to make
Yeah.
video. Crazy Z will make you think you do, but you really don't. But no, I mean, if you love doing it, like, it's cool. You know what I mean? Like, but I
Yeah,
hate it.
it's that whole creative aspect, right? So the whole taking the pictures and photoshopping them, like, it's okay. There's a little bit of stress to it because
Yeah,
we all know at this point you got to change your icon to something
yeah,
slightly different to make it stand out when you upload it.
yeah.
But other than that, I really enjoyed making the commercials for them.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're right, Tack. It was a fun video. Tack and Obsidian actually, the when you see the people walking throughout the video, they're in it.
Hmm.
I think Fluffy made an appearance in there, and one other person did too. So
Yeah.
it was nice to be able to have them, help me out. But yeah, so this was kind of the luxury cruise liner, and I really liked it just because I
It's
do a lot
bold,
of
man.
RP.
It's bold because of the lines. The flat block lines just yeah, it just looks really cool. It looks really cool. It
It was.
looks I don't know what that's called, but it's like you can see kind of the exoskeleton behind it, like you know what I mean, like the fuselage, I guess, of the it just looks more complex. And then it looks like a
Oh
broadsword
yeah,
or some shit. Like it looks something like cool for me. Yeah.
yeah. There's a little. It's almost like a little bit of sophistication along with. Yeah, it was. I had a great time making this ship actually, and it turned out a whole lot better than I thought.
Yeah.
Um, so after this, we have some ships that I have released but haven't released either. Kind
Ooh.
of a mix of both. Yeah. So
Exclusive.
then, right. So the next one, it's just
Okay.
called the Hauler right now. Hauler. Um, this one has not been released. You'll see, I definitely went off of Jay Randall's Percy Carrier and made it my own. It's just barely size class 10. It's like 10.49. It's CPU compliant. I've been upgrading it as the updates come out, and it's I just love carriers. I mean, what I lived on one for 6 years, so
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot of detail. You look at that in comparison to the last one here. Not the last one, the second to last one. Just look at the level of detail difference.
yeah, it was. There's a lot. There's definitely a lot more on there, and it, like I said, it fits I the rear entrance to the hangar bay going through there. When you look at the hangar bay is just. I think it looks really good with the coloring and all that. But the only downside I have to this build is the very bottom isn't done. Uh, and it's just if I add any more blocks to the bottom, it'll put it oversized class 10.
Gotcha.
And that is something I like to do. I do like to, texture the bottom too, because ships have
Well,
texture all around.
yeah, but you don't see them in the water, so you could just use that as an excuse. You don't see the
There you
bottom
go.
half of the ship. What do you want? Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so you can park a lot in there, obviously, and I don't have a time limit for how long this thing took me. Um, it's probably better that I don't,
Yeah. This is a
because if
lot, dude.
yeah, so even like those little bays will open up. There's a lot that's really easily accessible there. So you have repair bays, medical, O2, all within the hangar bay here.
Nice lounge.
Yeah, so there's the lounge above the hangar bay. You can look, and there's a bar in there. Off to the sides, there's officer lounges. You can go up and the different entrance areas.
Every
Yeah,
time
so
I look
this
at
is
one of these, it's like I gotta build a big CV and then, but that magically goes away in like an hour.
yeah,
Because
right.
it's just so, oh my god, there's just so much, dude. Like this, it's beautiful,
It's
man, but it's a
oh, there
lot. That's a
is.
different type of work, man.
It's
I'd drive
if
myself
you
nuts.
ask my wife, it's a second job, and
Yeah, yeah. I like getting through like half the building process in a sit down. Like if it takes longer than that, then I don't know. I gotta really
so
be in love
down.
with it.
Oh, sorry.
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say if you go into the hangar bay area and then start heading towards the forward end of the ship, you'll see kind of the engine room. And me being a machinist mate back in the Navy, that was kind of what I did, right? I spent more time in engine rooms that I could, possibly want to.
Yeah, wow, look at
But
this.
yeah, so I spent a lot of room and a lot of time in detail in there.
So when you build CVs, what's your process? Like, how do you begin?
Um, a lot of it's from the outside in, right? So a lot of the times I'll kind of have an idea for shapes in my head, and I may even sketch them out from time to time on paper and go, can I possibly achieve these shapes with what I have in the game? And from there, if I say yes, then I start building. Um, and I have to kind of scale it in my mind. How am I going to make that curve work? How many blocks is that going to take? And that kind of determines the scale of the whole ship. And then from there, I just start building the whole. I guess you could call it the exoskeleton. And then I'll
Mm-hmm.
move inside. And usually the hangar bay is the first room completed,
Mm-hmm.
because I figure that's probably one of the more important parts is where you're going to park your ship inside of this ship.
But you build the entire frame, the whole. You build the whole, and then you start filling it in the inside.
Correct. Yeah. Now, if
Okay.
there's like key parts, I'm like, okay, I have to fit, 36 grow plots in here. I'll
Mm-hmm.
set that area aside for it. But
Okay.
yeah, for for the most part, it's from the outside in, and then I can usually fit all the this one you can tell there's probably like 3 or 4 lounges and bars in this thing, you know,
Yeah,
way more than you would need in a normal ship, but I had to fill some space. So that was kind of some poor planning on my part.
I like what you did with that. Yeah, that's some really cool details here.
Yeah, I want to. So this one actually, this thing's been built at least the whole, outside of changing as patches come out to make it fit whatever patches come out. This thing's been done for actually probably a couple months.
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. So it's like, now obviously it's not as, and that's kind of what I'm doing with the Kydex is like I don't want to release it yet because I know more shit's coming. It's like
Yeah.
once I'm
So
done with it, I'm done. Like I don't want to go back to it at all. So, when you spend that much time with something, it's like you really want to make sure that you send it off prepared.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is beautiful, man. This is a lot of work, dude. This is a huge time investment here.
Yeah, it was. This will be. That's when you guys were going over what the next season's gonna look like. I had this in mind for when I was putting in. I'm like, oh, we got to stay size class 10. We got to stay size class 10, not 7, not 5 or whatever. I'm like, I need 10 so I can build this ship in the game.
All right, Obsidian, you heard that, right? Size class 10. So like that number's important.
um.
I feel so bad.
So yeah. Right.
It's 8 now. Sorry. I
Just
don't know. We just figured 8 would be better.
yeah. Right. So
Hey.
the next one, after this, I started getting into some kind of funky builds, some stuff I really had fun with. I think you showed this one, and it was the Mirage.
This is a.
It's a CV. Yeah, sorry.
It's called the
I think
Marauder.
yeah, Marauder.
I don't see it. Send it to me.
Um, it was in last month's challenge, I think.
Oh.
I don't know if you get rid of them after that. That's why I didn't send it to you directly.
I do clear. Yeah, I do clear out stuff because you can only carry so many blueprints.
Do
So
you?
yeah.
I'm not too worried about it. It'll be on the workshop soon enough, anyways.
Yeah.
And then I had so the other one is actually the Manta 10.6, and this one I haven't. It's up to date. It's finished. I just haven't released it. I need to come up with a better name for it. But it's just meant to be kind of a smaller CV, and just
These are
kind of
fun
gets
to
in there
build,
with
aren't
some.
they? Like the small CVs. I'm really
Oh
enjoying it.
yeah, it's got some good guns for its size.
Yeah, this is cool, man. It's just fun cramming everything into such a small frame and then like kind of detailing it. Oh, look at this bridge, dude. This is cool.
Oh, and it forces you to be creative too when
Yeah.
you build smaller.
No, for
Oh, how
sure.
can I make this or that work? Yeah, so I like this bridge style so much. I actually used it in one of my other builds.
No, this is great. Yeah, I like it.
And I try to fit all the different medical stations into one area, things like that. And it's I
This
haven't
is
built it
cool.
in survival yet, but
Yeah, this is cool, man. Good amount of weapons. Let's see. You don't have any underneath, though. That'd be the only criticism. For when you go planet side.
no, yeah, not underneath. So I don't know. Turn yourself upside down if you really want to fight like that.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, no planetary weapons. You just have space weapons. So it's orbital only.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of my downfalls is I build more than I play. So knowledge like that of you should have this type of gun on planet side on the bottom. I'm not as
Yeah, it's
knowledgeable on that
projectile.
aspect.
Yeah. So anything projectile, the cannon or the miniguns work on planet. Nothing else works on planet for CVs. It's all orbital. So the fixed weapons, the all those other turrets only work in space. And then you figure with a CV, you're mainly any enemy's going to be underneath you, right? Because you're basically landing or you're moving. So that's where you have the ones on the bottom. But
Yeah,
literally, if
that's
you
true.
threw like 3 or 4 minigun turrets, you'd be fine. You could totally fit them in there too.
Yeah, it'd be a tight cram in there, but it'd work.
It's cool, man. I like it. I really like the wings. I like the way you kind of like gave us some spacing in between it too to make it more complex of a shape. It's just really cool.
Yeah, it was this one it didn't take me too long. I think it took me just in getting some of the shapes to mold together. Um as far as actually building it, that probably took the longest, along with texturing and coloring. For some reason lately that's been taking me forever, and I think it's because I've been making it more complex.
Do you
But
hate a lot of textures now though? Like I hate a lot of textures now.
I don't necessarily hate any one particular texture. I'll hate certain textures on certain shapes. And I think that's just the shape in general doesn't fit the texture to it well. Um as you can tell, the different when you put the same texture on different shapes, sometimes it'll morph it. And it's like, well shit, now I got to leave that block completely blank just because of the fact that it doesn't
Yeah.
fit anything on it.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. This is awesome. I love small
Yeah, so
CVs.
I enjoyed the small CV build quite a bit. So I built one that's a little bit bigger after that, and that was the Lancer actually. So it's like I said, a little bit bigger, a little bit different shape, but it was
Ah,
kind of fun.
death stick. Look at this thing.
And
That is cool. Oh.
yeah, so this one was pretty fun to build.
Yeah, it definitely I can see that you definitely switch up your style a lot, man, which is really cool. Like you're not just kind of making a bunch of additions of the same kind of format. Like you're really going outside of the box a lot. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's I was doing that for a while. I was building some similar stuff to each other, and I was like, no, you know what? I gotta change this. The downside is now I want to build all of these in a game, so I have to go out and farm all the materials to build it in survival, right? Have my collection of ships.
Now, how long do you play a survival game? Like the playability of a game is how long for you?
It's a little different for me since I usually do it on multiplayer. Single player aspect I don't do too much on here actually.
Hmm.
So I'll play, I'll play a whole season on multiplayer, take a few breaks here and there if I find all I'm doing is grinding and grinding, or farming materials, I'll actually take a break and build another ship or play another game for a little bit. But yeah, good couple months or so at the very least.
Okay, wow, yeah, that's a lot longer than probably a single player game. So, I mean, that's what's cool about multiplayer is you can kind of invent further goals in the game and further inspiration, I guess, to continue, right? Because obviously, the first thing is to get the vessels you want. Like that's the first thing. But then I always struggle with, okay, now what am I doing with these vessels? And that's where my game kind of ends in single player, because it's like I've kind of got everything I need. What am I gathering for to go beyond this? You know what I mean? So in
Yeah.
multiplayer, you can definitely invent that. You can definitely, you can have PvP battles. You can have political struggles and stuff. Just all kinds of stuff like that that can kind of enrich and give some better goals as far as why you need these things. And even like PvE, like working with them and getting them to give you resources, trading, all these different things can help kind of shape your playthrough a little bit better than you know
Oh
single
yeah,
player.
definitely. That's one thing I like about the multiplayer is there is more to do, right?
Hey, anyone's over. Yeah, for sure. And I think, and that's my argument always with the developers is for the multiplayer is even forget about the whole multiplayer, not multiplayer, but the whole PvP aspect of it, like because that seems to be what the big focus and the big problem is the PvP. Even setting that aside, find a way for people to need to play together. That would be my biggest thing. Find a way for PvE to be co-op. Because right now it's not. Unless you really make it, unless you and me start a game and say, you know what, we're going to use the Lancer. And that's going to be our CV we're going to use together, and that's the only CV we're going to have. That's hard to do for most people. Most people are like, yeah, but I want my own CV. And then it's like, well, okay.
Your voice cut out a little bit there for me.
And then it's like, I want my own CV. And then, you're like, well, right, but then what are we doing? You know what I mean? It just doesn't, maybe it's just that, I haven't been, the few times I've multiplayed, it's been with, people that do that. But, yeah, it's just, there needs to be more cooperative purpose to the playthrough, I think. And
your voice keeps cutting out there for me.
I guess it's a Discord thing. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
But yeah, it feels like, there needs to be some maybe more complex POIs, maybe more complex scenarios, maybe so obviously they're going in the right direction. They got the base attack stuff. Soon that's going to be in space. Soon there's going to be these other things. So I'm just hoping that more and more of that becomes a need for people to kind of close in and work more cooperatively than we do purely for RP value.
Yeah, no, that'd definitely be cool.
So yeah,
so
man.
The next ship, I only got two more, so
Right.
make it quick on you. But the next one, it's an SV, and it's called the Z54 Alpha, and to continue with the different shapes kind of thing we're doing, right?
Yeah, look at that. That is sweet.
So
Next
Sylvia
week,
actually
dumpster.
told me it looks kind of like one of those racing speedboats, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's kind of cool. So
I really like it, man. Yeah, that's an interesting way you got with that. But see why I hate the lighting in this game? You see how like it just I don't know, it pisses me off with some of these shapes. Like the way the lighting hits it makes it look like wrong when it's not.
oh yeah, yeah. It's something I've had to just kind of deal with, I guess.
You're better than me, man. I can't do it. Trust me. That's why all my shit looks like bricks.
It ends up being that, or I don't build, right?
Yeah. Oh, this is cool. I like the elevated cockpit. Yeah, this is sweet, dude.
Yeah, so it's one of those other. I like doing the SVs with full interiors now.
Yeah.
You can walk around, kind of feel like for those who like their little safe space, right?
Yeah, you got the crazy Z carpet plan going here. I like it, man. It's cool.
Yeah, I've got, I always do the carpet in there now. On occasion, I do the little walkway stuff with carpet on the side.
Yeah. No, this is sweet, man.
Yeah, so it's kind of a decent. I wouldn't say a starter, but maybe mid level. I mean, it's unlocked 12, and once again, not super strong. It can take a few hits and dish out a little bit, but that's about it. And it does have 4 rocket turrets up in that top kind of thruster module.
Oh, that's where I know. I was looking for the guns. That's where I was looking. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, see, Crazy Z loves it, man. He's like freaking awesome.
Yeah, so it was a fun build, that's for sure. And then so the next one I've actually put on the workshop, and it did okay. And this is one of the reasons why I've just stopped caring, how well they do on the workshop. Is it's the Yukon, and it's a CV. And like I said, with that Manta, I like the cockpit so much I had to use it again. So the Yukon's got the same cockpit, but a little bit different interior. I tried, once again trying some different overall shapes with the ship.
Yeah. So of all, because you've built a good amount of CVs, of all the CVs, which one's yours?
Oh, you cut out there again for me.
I don't know why I'm cutting out, man. That's weird. Must be the
I don't
button.
know.
Of all
I'm
the
guessing you're saying
CVs,
which one,
yeah, which one's
which
yours?
one's
Like,
your favorite?
which one's the one that you go, I'm using this in my game?
Probably that carrier.
Okay, all
I
right.
might build like that manta ray one halfway through the game, you know, or whenever I unlock it. But when I get the materials, it's definitely going to be that carrier one. And the E75 Horizon, it used to be that one just because of the sheer size and how much fun it was to make.
Wow.
But this ship that you're looking through, if you go to the front cockpit and then to the left side of the cockpit, there's a button there for thruster power. If you hit that thruster power, it actually updates the on off the
What?
power consumption.
Ah. All right, that's cool. What?
So I'll let out the little secret. That took
It's got two
I
LCDs,
think
right?
five LCDs
Oh,
to do.
5. Wow, look at that. Yeah, they're all
Yeah, so if
around
you
too.
look at yeah,
Oh, that is tricky. I like that, man. That is cool.
yeah, so it's just a cool little RP thing I added in there, and it actually does change up the how many thrusters you're using, and obviously the math for how much power is definitely not true,
Mm.
because this thing has quite a large power supply.
So I'm giving you my ship to do this on mine, right? Because I don't have time for that shit.
I was gonna say you'll need a spot to put like five or six LCDs,
Oh well, you
so
know
that's
we're
why it's
screwed.
not on.
Yeah, you know we're not doing
Yeah,
that. I'm not gonna have 5 spaces. My ships are too small. Sorry.
right. So that's why it's not on all the other ships is just
Yeah,
finding the space to put all that.
that is cool, man. That is good stuff. Yeah, just yeah.
Yeah. So this is that's the most recent one I've done. I've got a couple others coming out that are I want to do ever since they released the HV to SV and all those different type of docking. I'm
Yeah,
actually
so
building.
what's your take on that? No, forget about that. What about CV to CV? What about, like
Yeah, so super excited about CV to CV. That's something
uh
I've wanted since like day one. So I can make these small mining CVs and attach them to like a mothership CV.
yeah.
So I'll be super excited about that. But for now, I'm starting out easy and I'm doing an SV kind of in a C shape, and then in the middle of that C shape is an HV that's built for mining, and
Mm,
it'll hold it. And when they're together, when they're married together, docked together, it'll look like one larger ship, just with
yeah.
kind of two cockpits. So
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So yeah, oh, and then as of the filming of this, they did release the experimental patch notes like right before this, and they did turn off CV to base docking, which is awesome because that means that we're not going to have the issue where we have to undock the CV from the base before we can dock the stuff to the CV, which is what it was going to be, which would have been really frustrating. So yeah, they've done that. So now, like,
oh, there you go. That'll be nice.
yeah, because that was a big problem before. So they've gone and they've fixed that. All right.
I think you got out for a
Yeah, I
bit.
don't know what's going on. It's weird.
That's all good. So
Stupid.
yeah, no, I'm glad they changed that. It'll be a cool addition now.
So yeah, man. So I guess, that kind of answers my next question with the future of kind of what you're going to be building and stuff. I mean, it's gonna you're kind of re-inspired a bit, refueled by some of the things coming out with Alpha 11.
Yeah, it gives me new ideas of what I want to do. Like I said, the HV to SV and then even SV to SV. I think it'll be quite fun. So
Yeah, I'm
it'll
excited.
definitely change the game up.
Yeah, I'm excited for sure. I'm excited for a lot of the new art stuff that's coming out. Like we're getting these slanted doors and stuff. That's gonna be really cool. I bet you'll use a lot of that. I'm really hoping for a 45-degree
Yeah.
hanger door. That's what I really want.
So the 45-degree hanger, that'd be cool. The slanted doors, I've seen them, and I really want to implement some of them. I just haven't had any builds recently to do it in. It's like,
Right.
oh man, I go, when I was building the older stuff, I really could have used these doors.
Oh, for sure, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be really cool. I'd like to try them out and actually not only use them in the right way, but have them look good at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Annie with that resub, man. I didn't see it. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Freaking 9 months, man. Tier 3 at that, dude. You're freaking awesome, man.
Nice.
So yeah, what else are you doing for content? Are you doing anything else with the YouTube other than your commercials? Are you gonna start doing maybe a build series or something? That'd be cool.
I thought about that. And I'm not so sure on it.
Hmm.
I know a couple of the bigger builders do it. I still might do a commercial or two. That's another reason why that carrier hasn't been released. I wanted to do a commercial for it, but kind of at the point too, especially with work being so busy, that I just might release it and say forget about the commercial for now.
Hmm.
But as far as content, no, I might just stick to what I'm doing now, and if I ever get that weird thing called free time outside of building, I
Mm.
might.
You spent a lot of time building for sure, so I can see that. And just watching Jay Randall try to keep up his building regimen and YouTube, I yeah, maybe it's not something I'd wish on you.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot.
No, I can imagine, and honestly, the way I build, it's very boring, I guess you
Hmm.
could say. As I get into it, when I start kind of running out of ideas or just slowing down at the end of the night or something, you just see me just do in God mode, just laps and circles around my build. Like
Oh
what
yeah,
can I change or improve or whatever. And if I can't find anything immediately, I just kind of call it a night. But yeah, it would be half the video would be me doing laps around my ship, right?
no, but you'd be surprised, man. You'd think it'd be boring, but people like watching it, man. I always like watching people just kind of figure out where they come up with that. Like, how do they? It's not necessarily like watching them build something cool. It's kind of the methods that I get into watching. Like, just how do they do that? How do they develop it? Like, you watch, the first time I've ever watched a couple people build, I was just shocked at how they do it. I'm like, that's weird. I could never do that. Like it's just cool to kind of see that. Some people literally trace out the entire whole of their ship before they do anything, and it's just bizarre to me. It's like, how are you doing that? It's just cool to watch. I mean, you'd be surprised. But yeah, definitely time commitment. If you really love to build, like you could see my workshop, dude. I don't put shit out anymore because I just don't have a lot of time. Um, so I mean, I need to get back into building, and I'm excited about it with Alpha 11. So I'll probably be putting out more stuff. But I hate the whole post production thing. I really hate it.
Yeah, that post production can be
Oh,
kinda rough.
I want to put a video out for it. I will be putting out a how-to video though, how to put something on the workshop because people have been asking that, like kind of the steps that you need to. It's not going to be like a how to get popular on the workshop video. It's just going to be like how to change that icon. Do some of those basic things. People don't necessarily know how to
Yeah,
do.
that's some of the stuff, when I started doing this, you gotta Google it, and
Yeah.
read through forums on how people have been doing it, and it's kind of a pain, and once you get used to it, it's not so bad, but yeah, I mean, it is, like you said, a big, long process of just how to do the little tiny tricks that set you apart or, that make it look like a finalized product.
Dumpster said he's gonna try to do these laps and see if he builds better. Dumpster Juice, you build great, dude. Annie too. Yeah. Annie said he did 5 laps and then came to the stream.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes that's you just like, "Yeah, I can't come up with anything. I'm gonna screw it. I'll wait a couple of days and see what happens." And that's happened to me too. If man, I've been at work just thinking about it or something sometimes, and
Yeah.
Obviously, I can't log on and do it at work, but that's when a little sketch pad comes in handy, you know.
Oh
She's
my
like, "Oh,
god, yeah.
wait," you know, "Oh, I'll get these, sketch down these shapes real quick, and maybe they'll make, this one giant kinda more complex shape," and I'll do that, and I think if anyone ever saw my notepad at work, they'd be like, "God, is this guy insane?"
No, dude, it's so funny when you get inspired, but you're at work and you're stuck. I've had that, dude. I've sat there and drawn whole conveyor systems for space engineers at work. Like, if I do the stone crushers here, it'll be more efficient.
Yeah, right?
Oh my god, you just get so wrapped up in it. It's awesome. Yeah, it's so cool.
No, and it's bad too. Like I can't memorize every single shape in this game. I'm pretty sure I have most of them memorized. But you're like, oh wait, I haven't used that style of shape, before. I wonder if they have that, while you're at work, and you're like, okay, let me jot this down real quick. I'll take a look when I get home.
Oh man, yeah. Maybe just take some pictures of the shape list on your phone. Then you got them.
Yeah, right. God, I hope nobody takes my phone either. Just there's nothing bad on it, but they just go through and like look at the pictures and like I have like intermediate steps of my builds on them,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I'll just look at them from time to time, like, oh, what could I add in that spot to make it look cool?
Right, right. Wow, cool, man. So yeah, I think that's it, man. So I'm definitely looking
Yeah,
forward
that's
to seeing what you come up with in the future, man. I think it's gonna be super exciting to see what everybody comes up with these docking and I'll say about you about what I've seen today. It's like I don't think there's too many people more diverse in style while also maintaining a level of quality than I've seen here today. I mean, no two ships look anything alike. And it's
no,
just
thank you.
it's really cool, man. It's really inspiring. So yeah, man, thanks for sharing your stuff, dude. That's awesome.
No, thanks for having me and letting me show off.
Sure, man. Does anybody have any questions for Tim here before we wrap it up?
I do or a video for LCD hack. No, dumpster. I'll be honest. It's just a lot of out of practice, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a video with. I think Jay Randall knows how to do it, so he might beat me to the video.
Right on, guys. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Designer Spotlight. Join us next week, Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern. Till then, thanks again, Tim, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thank you.
Oh, neat.